Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. We are the Matriarchs of Fandom. I'm Vonda. How you doing tonight? And we are here with Miss Liz. We're just waiting on Lady Gray to pop in, or just be a moment. But we're just going to have a short show today, and we're going to talk about few people over looks like a lot of older comedies that I've noticed that actually stole the show. You know, you'll cut the TV on, or we'll watch a movie, and there's certain characters that I don't believe intended to be the main characters. Maybe they had a guest star. They just decided to have them on the show 1 or 2 episodes, but they became so popular that the original people that the show was based on. Oh, there she goes. How you doing, Miss Gray?
Sorry, technical difficulties.
I was just telling everyone that we're just doing a show on some people that wasn't originally intended to be the mainstream person in the show. They had a guest spot and just became popular. That hello, how you doing? Hello, how you doing? That became popular enough where they pretty much stole the show from the original people that it was intended. A lot of when I was going through this, hello. When I was going through this, I just kind of picked old school shows. There's 1 or 2 mainframe shows, but it looks like it happened a lot back then. Not saying it doesn't now. Usually, I've noticed, bless you, the shows that is happening now, kind of newer movies. But I'm just going to go a little old school, and some of the shows that were from the 80s and 90s that wow, they just end up being the main person in the show. The first person that I'm going to mention is Spock from Star Trek. Originally, you had, Spock, you had Bones, you had Captain Kirk, and then you had the other characters. But over time, Spock. We all love James T. Kirk. We do. He was the cool captain, but Spock just, there he is. Spock definitely stole the show. From the movies, he was in pretty much 6 TV shows, 9 films. 4 actors have played this character, which also include the video game. Right there, he shows the Vulcan hand. I can never do it. Oh, Miss Liz. Oh, I guess I'm the only one. Sadness. But the original Star Trek with Spock in it was only there for 3 seasons, started in 1966. Miss Liz, what is your opinion on Spock, and do you think he stole the show from Captain Kirk and Bones?
Oh yeah, he stole the show, all right. He was the whole reason I watched that show was because of Leonard Nimoy's Spock. I think there were a lot of females back then that he pretty much he drew a lot of people in,
Mm-hmm.
and he got more fan mail than Kirk did.
Yeah.
And Gene Roddenberry had to smooth some ruffled feathers there for when that happened, but things worked out. They ended up being best friends,
Mm-hmm.
but at first Kirk was William Shatner was none too happy about the fact that his subordinate was taking the limelight.
Yeah.
But Honest to God, the whole reason I got hooked on Star Trek is because of Spock.
Okay. Okay.
That's ifs, no ands or buts about it.
All
I
right.
was smitten.
Now, Lady Gray, do you agree or disagree? And if you agree, why do you think everybody loves Spock?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I never watched Star Trek that much when I was young. I started watching it when I was older because of you guys, you know. And you remember when I started watching it, I messaged you guys. I'm like, is Spock supposed to be hot? Because Spock is really hot. And I just never thought it, thought Spock hot. I don't know. It's just something about, I mean, looks wise, the tall, dark, and handsome, of course. But I think it was the character. His character was just so confident and just kind of exuded that intelligent intelligence. I don't know. There was just something about his character as well as the looks. It was like the total package, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, I never really thought about him being a sex symbol. I'm sorry. However, I liked his attitude. I mean, it was interesting. Him, hey,
Yeah.
I'm a Vulcan. Well, you're half human. And he says that a lot, and it was cool. It was cool to be smart.
Yes.
So that's what I really like about Spock. So okay, we're in agreement.
Definitely.
All right, next person that I have on our list. Now, I don't watch the show, and I think Lady Gray mentioned this character, but is Daryl Dixon from Walking Dead. Now, I have to admit, the second, I guess, it's been two series. The Not the newer one, the one before that. It was on TV one day, and I think I spent about 4 or 5 hours watching it because I've been curious about the show. But the show came out in 2010. There was 11 seasons, and I do believe he has his own show now, if I recall. I see Miss Liz saying she doesn't really watch it too much. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Lady Gray, who apparently must watch the show because she named this character. Go for it.
I did. I haven't watched the later seasons or the later shows. It got to be so gory to me. Not that it wasn't always gory, but But yeah, that's what I heard. Because I never. Because apparently they're based on a comic books, which I never read the comic books. But I was told that he wasn't even a character in the comic books. That they wrote. I think the actor Norman Reedus actually had interviewed or auditioned for the main character of the show, and he didn't get it, but they liked his character and his version so much that they actually wrote him in. And I don't think they had and I'm sure someone will write in and tell me if I'm wrong, remembering wrong, but that's what I remember. um but they liked his character so much, and over the first season he just grew and grew and grew to where, like, the first season he had little bit parts here and there to, by the later seasons he was an integral part of the show. And I just think it's kind of cool that this was a character that didn't even exist and was primarily written for the actor because the actor was so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so question.
Hmm?
They're zombies, I'm assuming. Where did I mean? Is it a virus? Did they ever explain it? Because that's why
I
I
want to say they said in the later, because I haven't watched some, because there's like one or two shows that you have to be a part of the streaming service to watch,
okay.
and I don't have that streaming service, so I haven't watched them. But I want to say they said in some of the later shows why how they came about. But yeah, it was like some sort of virus, and it's something in the body that does it. It's not, it wasn't like a comet or anything like that, like you've seen in other ones, in, like,
Okay.
yeah.
I
Okay.
never watched it because I can't get past zombies.
See, I agree, Miss Liz. That's why when it was on a couple years ago, I guess the second version, you know, it was supposed to show the beginnings. And
Okay, Calvin said.
and I was just curious because it was really, really big, you
Yeah.
know, and I was just curious where the virus came. And I guess those few episodes I watched, it didn't really give me an answer. So I just turned the TV off because, like Miss Liz, I don't like zombies.
Yeah, the first few seasons they never tell. They kind of allude to the fact that it's in the body, so it's
Okay.
not like it's even if you like get killed just like you get shot when you die, you're going to come back as a zombie. You don't have to be bitten by a zombie to
Oh,
come.
so like a mutation.
It's some sort of
Okay.
mutation type thing.
Okay.
Is what I recall. It's been years since I watched it because,
Okay.
like I said, it got too gory even for me, and that's pretty bad because
Yes, that's
I
why I
can
didn't
stand
watch.
a lot of gore.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. So next person I'm mentioning is Steve Urkel from Family Matters. Now, I never really watched the show. I'm going to be honest, y'all. You know, I'm more of a drama girl than comedies, but I do know, you know, about the show. You know, if I was to see him, and he did go to Richmond Con, and unfortunately, we wasn't able to see Jaquel White's piano. There he is. But when I looked it up, I remember that he started in season one, but on the 12th episode, and he was just another character that just was brought in for that scene. Became so popular, they brought him back, and every time I would see a commercial for the show, that's all who you saw was Steve. Yeah, there you go. The family members, everybody else. You know, I'm not saying the other people of the show wasn't interesting, but it definitely showed him. I mean, he came back as Safran, for what I understand. So, Miss Liz, did you watch Family Matters?
I
And
saw maybe 4 episodes. It just wasn't my cup of tea. Everybody kept talking about it and
yeah,
talking about it and whatnot. So I tried watching it, and
okay,
like I said, it just, I might have seen more than 4, but pretty much that was, you know,
yeah, I agree. But everywhere, you know, every time I would,
oh
you
my
know,
God,
turn the station, it was big.
you can't go around the world without knowing about Urkel. Even
Yeah,
people who've never seen it know who Urkel is.
true. That dance, didn't he do a weird dance too? I think. Okay, okay. Lady Gray, did you watch Family Matters?
I did. I mean, I wasn't like an avid fan, but I did watch it. I know the actor a couple years ago was on Dancing with the Stars, and he talked very frankly about his time playing Urkel, and he said that he kind of had a love hate relationship with it because he became so well known as that character. He got typecast and
Yeah,
had um, trouble finding work afterwards. And he actually did pay homage to the character on on Dancing with the Stars, and then more recently he played a pirate on Skeleton Crew, uh,
yes.
Disney Skeleton Crew, and he did really well there. And it was nice to see him break away from that Urkel role. But yeah, I remember watching that, and he definitely did steal the show. I mean, you know, any scene that he was in, you forgot everybody else in it.
Agreed, agreed. And
I
I,
liked Skeleton Crew. It was very good.
Yeah, and he
yeah,
did really good in it.
well, when I went to Richmond Con, I did not realize, I think back in the 90s or early 2000s, he also played Sonic. So that was one thing that I mean, you know, I never knew, but Steve Urkel, like you said, everybody everywhere, even if you don't know the show and watch the show, that, yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
You know, you've seen him. I tell my family sometimes if I was in the store and he was standing behind me, I would say, "Oh my God, it's Steve." Even though I didn't really watch the show. So okay, another person that I'm going to mention, sadly, is another show that I still didn't see, from The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon Cooper. Now, it was on for, looks like I wrote down 7 seasons. It was 141 episode. It was canceled last year, but his character became so popular, and originally it was just Penny and what's his name, Penny and Linwood. Looks like originally was the main people supposed to be on the show, but he became so popular that Young Sheldon came out. I actually have a lot of coworkers that didn't understand why I didn't see it. I might turn to it like here and there, or if whatever I'm watching is on, the station, is up there. It's, another comedy. And like I said, I'm not a comic girl, but I do know he was rocking in the show. Miss Liz, did you see The Big Thing?
Oh, I watched every single episode. I've seen them all more than once. And mainly because those people in that show, I know a lot of people in the real world as far as sci-fi's conventions and other things that are dead on, that would fit that person's character. It was just incredible how close that these nerds fit the nerds I knew.
Yeah, true.
And yes, Sheldon was something else. I don't think I could have lived with Sheldon or even been a friend of Sheldon because he was quite annoying. But as far as his friends are concerned, uh, they should be canonized for putting up with Sheldon all those years. But they did mellow him out eventually.
Okay.
Thank God they mellowed him out because I didn't think he'd ever find a woman, and he did. And he got married.
So
and
would you
young,
say
and young Sheldon was good too.
So you would say that he definitely showed the show? I mean, was the show, considering that was on for 7 seasons, do you think he's the reason why the show went on?
I think exactly that's the reason. Everybody tuned in to see what kind of nonsense that man was going to get and drive everybody nuts about.
Okay.
I mean, before Leonard moved in with him, Sheldon was pigeonholed, and he had no social graces or anything. He didn't get along. Forget it. His focus was work and his job and logic and staying away from people. He was pretty much I don't know what you could consider him glorific, but he was definitely, he thought everybody was inferior to him, basically.
Okay.
And if it weren't for Penny and Leonard and the eventual girlfriend and wife, I don't think Sheldon would have ever come out of his shell, ever.
Okay. Okay.
They did a really good job of making him into a human being.
Okay. Okay. Do you agree with that character, Lady Gray? Did you watch the show?
So that kind of proof that he stole the show because I never watched it. So I thought he was the main character of the show. I never realized he wasn't the main character of the show until y'all said something just now. No, I never watched it. I probably would enjoy it, but I've worked with engineers all my life, so I kind of lived the Big Bang Theory a little bit, So kind of after putting up with that all day, I didn't necessarily want to come home and watch it on TV too. Um, but yeah, I mean, he must have stole the show because I thought he was the main character. I never knew that the show wasn't about him.
Yeah. Okay.
Just the little bits I saw. So
All right. Agreed. Agreed. All right. So the next show or person that I'm mentioning, where's my notes? 1974. It was 115 episodes. Happy Days. Of course, we all know I'm talking about Fonzie. Harry Winkler played that part. A couple years later in 1980, there was a cartoon called The Fonz and the Happy Day, which only lasted for one season. There's another show that he did, which was another cartoon, which is look like I wrote Joni loves something.
Chachi.
Chachi. And in 82, they only lasted one season. Mark and Mindy, Laverne and Shirley, and the Fozzie Hour, and that also in 82. I remember watching this show. I've always thought it was pretty cool. He was cool. There he goes doing the hey. Yeah, I went to a couple of conventions, so I've seen him there. He's, really cool, but he was just, had the leather jacket, the white shirt. He was another person that wasn't intended to be the main person. Everybody just fell in love about him. Miss Liz, what did you like about Fonzie?
Oh, Fonzie was just your everyday run-of-the-mill guy who was damn super cool, and of course that leather jacket, and
Yep, there's the family.
he just exuded absolutely. I don't know how to put it. When he walked in the room, everybody was paying attention to the Fonz.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it was. And he had a way with women too, with girls. All he had to do was snap his finger and the girls were right there. Oh, wow. I don't know how good of a mechanic he was, but he definitely knew how to ride that motorcycle and and keep everybody in the straight and narrow, basically. And he taught Howie a lot about life. Okay. Yes, he did.
Well, considering he's not really the family, he became part of their family.
Oh my God, yes, he was definitely part of that family.
Definitely. And there was someone put up there that it was known for jumping the shark.
Oh yeah, that's a saying. It's called jumping the shark, and that's all because of Fonzie.
Okay.
Because he jumped a shark. Literally.
I've never really heard of that scene, but I vaguely remember the episode. I'm going to be honest. Lady Gray, Fonzie?
I remember watching this when I was little. I was too young to probably appreciate how cool he was or how handsome or anything. I do remember I had a babysitter that would babysit me quite often, and she had a big poster of him on her closet door. So I guess he must have been a ladies' man. Back then I was too young to appreciate it. I remember thinking he was cool. The motorcycles didn't make me go ooh, because my dad and all his friends were bikers, so I was used to motorcycles. So I was just kind of like, oh, that's cool. He's like my dad. But I mean, he was a cool character. He definitely was well written, and I don't know whether it was so much that he was well written or that Henry Winkler just did such a good job playing him that he just really brought him to life. I think maybe a little bit of both.
Okay. Next,
yeah, Vonda.
Yes,
you know his jacket is in the Smithsonian.
Yes, I remember seeing that. Yeah. Like I said, he's cool. Mm-hmm. And I watched, and even though it's a comedy, I remember watching that show. Yep. Okay. Next show is actually a comedy too. It came out in 1982. It had 7 seasons, and I am talking about Family Ties. Now, Michael J. Fox, um, he Alice P. Keaton, in which I look up. They never actually said what the P stand for, because I was kind of curious. I guess he just went with his name. But Michael J. Fox, I mean, if you ask me, he did this character. He was a Republican, which was just funny. And you wanted to watch him week by week, see what stuff that comes up to him. The show originally was supposed to be about his parents. And even though his parents obviously did remain in all 7 seasons of the show, I didn't really want to see them. I wanted to see, Mike and Keaton play that card. Miss Liz, what did you think of Family Ties?
I watched it because of Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the only reason I watched it. And he's just, whoever wrote his character, and maybe it's partly Michael, that he basically stole the show. That's all there is to it. I mean, yeah. I don't think that show would have lasted if it hadn't been for Michael.
True.
I mean, all his sisters and his parents and everybody just became secondary characters, and basically launched his career.
Yeah. Agreed. Lady Gray?
Yeah, I remember watching this when I was little. Again, I don't remember that he wasn't the main character. I kind of always thought he was. I know a lot of the girls that were in, I think this was when I was in, I don't know, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. Mm-hmm. A lot of the girls had crushes on him back then. He was cute. He was funny. He was smart, which is kind of different from, a lot of the traditional cute guys that you would have a crush on, because, he was the smart, intelligent one as opposed to the cool football athletic one. So I think he was a cool character, and I don't want to say role model, because he was a little different, but he kind of, like we said on one of the other characters, he made it cool to be smart.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say maybe to a point of a role model, because he was himself.
Yeah.
He wasn't fake. He came in. This is me.
100%, yeah.
Yeah. So, exactly. In that respect, yes.
Exactly.
All right. The next character I'm going to mention is from Sesame Street. This should be an easy one. If I mention Sesame Street, it is, of course, Elmo. Elmo came out in 1990. Everybody loves that little red monster. You don't, Miss Liz? Oh my God. No, Elmo. His voice, he got up there. I mean, who cares about Big Bird?
Annoying thing in the world.
Annoying.
It's almost as bad as Barney.
Okay. No.
My favorite characters on Sesame Street were Bert and Ernie, Big Bird, and the Count. And I did like Oscar the Grouch.
See,
but Elmo just had that squeaky little voice that he annoyed me. Let's put it that way.
Those other characters was good, but when Elmo got on board, that's all it was. He originally was up there because the ratings was going down. He ended up having Elmo's World, that was pretty much the last, 10, 15 minutes of the end of Sesame Street. None of the other characters did that.
Well, maybe it's because I had become an adult by then, and that's why he didn't appeal to me, because I had grown out of that phase.
Mm-hmm, okay.
And that's why he didn't do anything for me. But maybe if I had been in that age group, maybe. But you
Okay.
got to remember, I was a total different age group by then.
True. True. Okay. True. True. I hope so. Okay. All right. Lady Gray, what do you think of Elmo? Do you think he stole the show?
I mean, I could see that he was much more marketable than the rest of them. I mean, you saw the other characters, somewhat on merchandise, but I mean, Elmo was everywhere. I mean, you had
Mhm.
that little Tickle Me Elmo doll that everybody wanted, and
Yep. We had one.
yeah, and
Yep.
I
Cookie
want to say my daughter
Monster.
was around the age that she would have liked Elmo, but I don't remember her watching Elmo. She was a big Barney fan, so
Oh,
talk about annoying.
oh
Um,
God. Yes. Barney. Teletubbies. I saw somebody with
Uh,
Teletubbies. I
yeah, not
watched
yeah.
it. Yeah.
She liked Barney, and then she quickly graduated to more palatable stuff like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and stuff.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I don't recall her being a huge Elmo fan back then. But I could see the appeal to the younger children because he was more on their level. Whereas the other characters talked more like adults, Elmo talked more like on a child level.
Well, he
So
was
I
three
could
and a half.
feel, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
well,
so
that totally explains why he didn't get. I didn't get it. It's because I was an adult by then, and adults' tastes change
yeah,
True. True.
considerably. And I totally agree with Lady Gray. Barney, ah,
Oh, yeah. Let's not talk
nightmare.
about Barney. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But we all watch those shows though. We talk about that as a nightmare, but we watch Barney, we watch
I didn't.
Teletubbies,
Thomas the Train,
Thomas
all
the
of
Train.
those.
Oh,
Oh
Miss
yeah, my
Liz.
nephew was big into Thomas the Train, and
Yep.
he liked the what's his the Bob the Builder or
Oh
whatever,
Yep.
yeah,
The
yeah,
Builder.
yeah.
and
Bobby Goat.
that kind of thing. But the reason I had to put up with it is my neighbor had one of those cutout Barney things, and she had it in her front yard,
Oh my goodness.
Mm,
and it was there for years.
that's
And
scary.
I had to go buy it every day. And you see where I'm coming from.
So Miss Liz, you won't watch The Walking Dead, but you looked at that Barney every day.
I had to. It was my
I watch
neighbor's
The
Barney.
Walking Dead every
Thank
day over
God
Barney.
when they left, the Barney left.
All right, all right. I think I got one or two more that I'm gonna put. This is another cartoon, came out in 2005. It's the Penguins in Madagascar.
Oh, I
You
love
know, I
Madagascar.
remember I went to the movies, and that first one, they only showed them, here and there, kind of like the squirrel in Ice Age, which, eventually became very annoying. But the penguins in Madagascar was cute. I didn't care about the other, and I think there were three other main characters in the show. But the penguins, they would just do something funny, something silly. We just laugh. They end up having their own TV show on it. Um,
Several movies.
Several movies. Yeah, there they are. They were funny, So I kind of feel like I had to include them. I don't know if they were intended to be as popular, but I know as the other movies, and I believe there's four, I kind of just wanted to see the penguins.
Well, the guy
You
with the walkie-talkie, you know who he reminded me of?
who?
Captain Kirk.
Oh.
I don't know why, but he just did.
Okay, I can see it. I guess.
Whenever he was commanding and making his penguins do everything, all I could think of was Kirk telling everybody to do.
I thought you were a fan of Star Trek, Ms. Liz, to compare that person to that. I don't know. Lady Gray, what did you think of Madagascar and the
It's been so
penguins?
long since I watched it, but I do remember the penguins just being absolutely hilarious with their different hijinks. I don't know that I necessarily went to the movies just to see the penguins per se, but I know I always laughed really hard when they were on there,
Yeah,
and I enjoyed them, and I could definitely see why their shenanigans made them so popular.
yeah, definitely. They
I went to
wasn't that
see the
bright, but they were
Penguins.
cool.
Hmm?
I went to the movies to see the Penguins when they finally came out and they had their own
Yeah,
stuff, their old spiel. Believe me, I went and saw that because they were hilarious.
yeah, me too. Me too. And I actually have one more that I'm going to mention. Is JJ from Good Times. Originally, it's a family in a ghetto. The mother, father, he had a younger brother and a sister, but towards the end of Good Times, there's JJ Dynamite. you know, um, he just became the show. Of course, the father, I think, left in season 2 for issues. But, I always thought JJ was actually cool. Him and his brother just, slept in that living room couch, and that went on for a few years, looked like 6 years from 1974. There's JoJo. There he is right there. So I didn't know if any of y'all actually watched Good Times growing up.
Um, I remember watching it like on reruns. Not avidly, but I mean, I definitely know who he is, and you know, you can't see anything about the show without thinking dynamite.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I remember about it. He definitely is what I remember about the show.
Yeah, agreed,
I never
agreed.
saw it, but I do know whenever you hear Dynamite, you think of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what some of these shows are. I mean, I've said the shows that I watched, that I did watch, that I didn't watch. And even though um, didn't watch the show, I knew these characters, like what Miss Liz just said about the Good Times. You know, so definitely characters that did so well that that's all we were about. I can't tell you anything else about some Good Times. Sadly, it was a black show. I watched it, but I will always remember Dynamite. And the show just became around him. Yeah, Janet Jackson was also, I think her name was Penny, in there. She was abused, and that was a really good episode. Looks like that's all we have for today. A little bit out of time. I did have one more. I'm just going to mention it quick. Hunger Games. I think her name is Ray Rowe. And Rue. Yes, there you go. And sadly, she died. Spoiler in the Hunger Games. But everybody would do this, and for me, she kind of stole the show. I didn't care about what Katniss was doing. I just wanted to see, with her being so young, I think she was 12 in the show at the time, that I believe she stole the show. Anyone of y'all want to talk about the Hunger Games real fast?
I know in the books, if because I read the books before
I did too.
movies. Um, she has such a connection with Katniss. I think you connect to her through her connection with Katniss, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a thing that's caught on, because I mean, we'll do that sometimes, like at work when like somebody's heading to a meeting or something like that. You don't want to say anything, so we just like hold that up like we're with you in spirit. um so yeah, I could, it's kind of funny because she was only in a
Yeah.
little part of the movie, but the
And
fact
it was hard to watch her get killed every time we watched it.
that
Kind of like,
little,
yeah,
that
it was
little
rough.
thing caught up. But yeah, it was hard watching her get killed.
All right. And
Yeah.
Miss Liz, final word there on the Hunger Games?
Oh, I loved Hunger Games. And yes, I love Rue. And gosh, it would have been nice if we could have saved her. But yeah, she had to go because it was in the book.
Yeah, yeah.
And
both of y'all read the book too. I read it too.
So she was, and the little girl that played her did a wonderful job.
Yes.
Did a wonderful job playing the character. And yes, it was really rough watching her get killed. Even though you knew it was coming, it was rough to watch.
Isn't she the girl that was in the Star Wars?
Yeah, she's the
yeah
character in Acolyte, which yeah, there's a character in there that stole the show, but we'll save that for another podcast as well.
Yes. And actually, we are going to do part 2 to this podcast in 2 weeks, where we're going to do villains. And that's all we're going to talk about. Villains that actually stole the show. None of the people that I mentioned today, the shows, most of them was comedies. There wasn't villains, but there's definitely some that, I'll go to the movie, and of course you want to root for the good guy, but that villain, you just want to smile and be like, yeah, that was sweet. That was sweet. All right, everyone. So we are out of time. I do appreciate everyone that listened today on live and replay. We appreciate you. Like I said earlier, the show again will be in 2 weeks. We're going to do the villains, that stole the show. And I do want to thank Miss Liz and Lady Gray for joining me today. If you like the show, please subscribe, hit like. Anybody else got anything to say before we head out?
No. May the 4th be with everybody.
Yes. Oh, do you have to say anything about that real fast, Miss Gray?
Stay tuned. We are at the lodge. I'll try and get some video and put up and share it. The lodge that we go to is doing a family fun day for May the 4th. And we're doing lightsaber and all kinds of stuff like that. So stay tuned. There's probably going to be some really interesting video clips from it. I think it's going to be a blast. If anybody's in the Portsmouth, Virginia area, hit me up if you want some information about it.
Okay. Excellent. All right, everyone. Have a great night, a great 2 weeks, and we'll see you then. Bye.